And I feel like in the second half of this book, it only got worse. I'm hoping that I give this more than 2 stars. Hey, how's it going? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a reading vlog where I'm going to be reading some of my most anticipated 2026 arcs. If you don't know what an arc is, it's basically an advanced reader copy. And I've just had the 2026 arcs stacking up recently, so I figured it would be a good idea to dedicate an entire video to trying to read these books. I'm filming this intro after I've already finished filming this vlog, and let me tell you, oh my god, it was a roller coaster because I did get around to reading 7 different things in this reading vlog, but I also DNF'd 3 of them. It was kind of a chaotic time, and I actually started this vlog at the very start of January. So this entire week that you're seeing is actually the week that happened before Winterween took place. So these were all of the first books that I read in the new year. So some of the books that I got around to reading in this vlog include Cherry Baby by Rainbow Rowell. This one is an arc that I have on my Kindle from NetGalley, and this one's actually going to be publishing in April. Rainbow Rowell is absolutely one of my top favorite authors of all time because I think her book Fangirl is maybe my most reread book of all time. I think I've read that book like 4 or even 5 times, and I'm obsessed with the way that Rainbow Rowell writes her books, so I knew that I wanted to start my year with this book. Another one that I read in this vlog that I had an audiobook for was Good Intentions. This one is publishing in the month of February, and this book is actually a thriller. We're following this woman who, like, right at the start of this book, her twin sister dies, and she sees this other woman in the hospital who lost her son on the same day that she lost her sister, and it's basically like a slow burn thriller about how she starts to become obsessed with this woman. Some other thrillers that I picked up in this vlog include Adrift by Will Dean. This one is publishing February 17th, and so is this one called Pinky Swear. This one's coming out February 24th. These are both thrillers that I've been highly anticipating. I also ended up picking up You Did Nothing Wrong by C.G. Drews. This is probably my most anticipated book of 2026 because this is from the same author as Don't Let the Forest In, which was my #1 favorite book that I read in 2025. And I was especially excited for this one because this is this author's adult debut, and this one is described as a domestic suspense meets a haunted house horror. I also ended up picking up Hold Me Like a Grudge. This one is publishing in March, and I forgot to mention this one is also coming out in March. This one has also been at the top of my most anticipated list because this one is a queer sports romance, which I feel like I just need all of the queer sports romance in my life recently. Like, that's definitely something that I'm seeking out in books. I was really excited for this one because it says a rivalry between 2 professional wrestlers turns into feelings neither man can fight. And this one's also a debut romance, so I was really excited to check out this one. And then lastly, I also ended up reading this one called This Story Might Save Your Life by Tiffany Crum. This one is also an arc that's publishing on March 10th, and this one is described as a thriller and a romance. It actually described itself as being perfect for fans of Emily Henry and Lisa Jewell. This one wasn't really on my radar before, but after hearing that comparison, I was like, okay, wait, I'm gonna drop everything to read this because what do you mean? So those are the 7 books that I got around to reading in this vlog. As I mentioned, it was kind of a roller coaster. It was kind of all over the place. I had a lot of DNFs, and I'm not very happy about it, but I feel like with this vlog, it gets worse before it gets better. And I was able to find a new favorite in this vlog, so at least there's that. So let me send you back to about a week ago, and I started with Cherry Baby. I've started reading Cherry Baby by Rainbow Rowell, and I don't know if you know this about me, but I am such a big fan of Rainbow Rowell because I am so obsessed with the book Fangirl, and I also just really love Rainbow Rowell's writing style in general. Like, she's somebody that I find to be so comforting, and there really is just something about her books. Like, I just love her writing so much, and so I've been really highly anticipating Cherry Baby. This book is being described as a second chance romance, which is not usually my thing, but I feel like when it comes to Rainbow Rowell, like, I love everything that she writes. She published another book called Slow Dance, and that one was also a second chance romance, and that's not usually my thing, but I loved Slow Dance so much. Like, it was a 5-star for me, and there's just something about the way that she writes her characters. Like, I feel so immediately connected to them. And last night I started reading Cherry Baby on my Kindle, and I only got 16% of the way in, and this is already feeling so promising to me. So in this story, we're following this character named Cherry, and she's 36 years old. She's recently divorced from this guy named Tom. She has this dog named Stevie Nicks, and Cherry's character character is also described as being fat. She actually says, not fat like most women think they are. Cherry was actually fat, objectively, and she knew it. She could say it out loud. She didn't hide from it. But I really love the way that Rainbow Rowell is like writing about this character and the way that she views her own body. And this guy, Tom, that's her ex-husband, he's been writing this book that's called Thursday. And it's kind of like a somewhat true story about like what ended up happening with them. Like he wrote a fictionalized story about these characters, but it's very obviously about his marriage with her, I think. And he named the character Baby in his book that's like very obviously based on Cherry. And now this story's become so successful that it's actually turning into a movie. And like they've cast another actress to play Baby, like this character. So she's kind of dealing with a lot in the very first chapter of this book. She's going out to this concert by herself and she's talking about how like when you're 36 years old, a lot of your friendships change and like a lot of her friends, you know, are married and they have kids and how her friends aren't going to concerts anymore. So she just decides to go by herself and she goes to see this band that's like one of her favorite bands. And then while she's there, she actually runs into an old friend named Russ. And this was a guy that like used to be around in her circles back when she was younger. And something that I do like about this book so far is that even though it feels like it's like a slow burn romance with her and Russ, we do get like a flashback scene so that we could see how they met when they were like 22 years old over a dozen years ago. But I'm just really loving the way that Rainbow Rowell like writes her characters. For example, one of the lines that I love is when she says, sometimes the world was so new it made Cherry dizzy and she was only 36. No wonder her mom always seemed so confused. I don't know, there's something about the way that Rainbow Rowell writes her books. It feels so familiar and so comforting. It's like reading from someone who's like one of my closest friends, if that makes any sense. And like, I know this sounds dramatic to say, but like if I could pick any author to like write the story of my life in like a really romantic and like beautiful way, it would be Rainbow Rowell. Like there's just something about the way that she writes her books that my brain, I feel so seen by her characters and her writing style. It's just all very comforting for me. And so I know that I'm very early on in this book. Like I'm only hitting chapter 10 at this point and there's still a lot to go because I think this book is like over 400 pages, but it already feels so promising that this is about to be like a 5-star new favorite book for me. And I feel like I really need this energy, you know, going into 2026, because this is actually going to be like my first read of 2026 and I could not be more excited about it. Like I really hope that it goes well. And so I'm going to continue reading this one today. I'm actually doing some reading sprints on my Patreon right now. Okay, hello, it is now about 4:30 in the afternoon, but I wanted to check in with you because I do have a reading update. I'm now about 53% of the way through Cherry Baby, and I am a little bit bummed to let you know that I don't know if I'm loving this as much as I was at the start of this book, mostly because I'm starting to feel like this book is getting a little bit like repetitive with like the conversations and like the thoughts that this main character is having. I noticed when I looked on Goodreads that this book is listed under romance, which I do think is kind of interesting because I feel like Rainbow Rowell has a way of writing romance that makes it feel like it's more like literary fiction or kind of like slice of life. The romance doesn't necessarily feel like it's like the biggest part of the story. It really more feels like a story about like Cherry and about her life and about the way that she views her body. And something that I do love about Cherry's character is the fact that she's the middle sister in a group of 5 sisters. Like she has 2 older sisters, 2 younger sisters, and all of her sisters are also fat the way that she is, and they're also very religious, which is like an interesting dynamic because Cherry herself is not really religious, but everybody else in her family is. I really do like in this book how we are getting the present day chapters after Cherry is like going through this divorce from this guy Tom that she was with for over a decade, but then she's also like discovering this new relationship with this guy named Russ that she knew from a long time ago. Like they were never together in the past, but he was definitely somebody that she used to have a crush on. And I like that we are kind of getting those flashback chapters to kind of see not only like how she met Russ to begin with, but then also like how she first met her husband Tom and like fell in love with him. And I feel like a lot of this book so far is kind of showing like how hard it is to go through a divorce from somebody that you thought you would spend the rest of your life with. I feel like in this story, we're getting a lot more focus on her and Tom than I thought we would. I do really love the way that Rainbow Rowell is able to like describe the male love interests in her books because I feel like she does such a good job of making these characters feel very real in the way that they're described. Like for example, she's never describing them as having like the most perfect jawline or like 6-pack abs, because I like the way she says she liked the wide planes of his face, the way his cheeks propped up his eyes and pushed them closed. She liked how pink he was. Pink cheeks and pink lips, the way the back of his neck flushed red. Cherry liked all of Tom's colors. She liked his changeable hair. In her brightly lit kitchen, his cropped hair was as blonde as a toddler's. In her dimly lit living room, it was sandy brown. Just the way that she talks about her love interest is very like unconventional, I guess, compared to like other romance writers that I'm reading, and that's why I really love her writing so much. It feels like she's not really trying to like romanticize them, but it somehow still feels like it is romanticizing them in like a really beautiful but like really real way. I guess the only part of this book that's starting to lose me and why it's feeling a little bit repetitive is because I feel like a lot of Cherry's inner thoughts are becoming a little bit repetitive with like the way that she views herself, and like a lot of her insecurities keep coming through. It does seem like she has a lot of like insecurities and a lot of doubt about like why they would be attracted to her in the first place. And I get that maybe that's the point and like that's part of her character development, but I do think it is getting a little bit repetitive for me at times. But I am still really enjoying this book. Like I do still see myself giving this 4 stars at this point. I no longer think it's going to be like a 5-star new favorite of mine, which is a bummer because I don't think I'm loving this one quite as much as I loved Slow Dance. And I do think I'm going to try to finish this book later tonight. I don't think I have anything to eat for dinner here at the house, so like I might try to go out and pick up some dinner tonight. And then later tonight, me and my mom are probably going to be watching Supernatural, which I'm now watching Supernatural for the very first time, and I'm having a lot of fun with it so far. We actually watched a few episodes last night that really, really hooked me, and so I'm really curious to see where the show's going. So I think we're going to do that later tonight, and then hopefully before bed later tonight, I can finish reading the rest of this. Okay, checking in with another update because I just finished reading Cherry Baby. It's so much later in the night. It's almost 11 o'clock at night. Also watched 4 episodes of Supernatural tonight with my mom, and we're both really liking it a lot. We're still watching season 1 at the time that I'm filming this, but we only have 4 episodes left of season 1, so we might actually finish season 1 by tomorrow night, so like that's pretty cool. But anyway, I just finished reading Cherry Baby, and I am so upset. I mean, you saw how excited I was talking about this book earlier today, and like I was so positive that this was going to be like a 5-star read for me. And now that I finished the book, I actually think it's going to be more like a 3-star. This book was just not really what I was expecting it to be. You know, as I was talking about earlier, I feel like this book really struggles with like the tone of this book because at times it feels more literary and at times it feels more like a romance book. But I also feel like I didn't really realize something about this book until I was like 60 to 70% of the way through the book, and I was like, oh wait, what is going on here? Like this is where we're going? Like I was so confused, and I just really didn't like the last like 30% of this book almost at all. And I feel like by the ending of this book, I just wasn't really liking any of the characters in this. Like I do think that Cherry is like the best character in this book, but even Cherry was like driving me absolutely nuts in most of the second half of this book. And so it really sucks because I actually feel like the second half of this book really fell apart for me, so much to the point where like after I hit the 70% mark, I was mostly skimming the end of this book because I was like, wow, like I really don't care about this. And it really sucks, you know, because I do love Rainbow Rowell's writing. And I do feel like in a lot of ways, this book does read like a typical Rainbow Rowell. Like it's something that you would expect from her. But I just don't think that this book had nearly the same kind of impact that her other books have had on me. I mean, I would definitely recommend reading Slow Dance by Rainbow Rowell over this one, because I do think Slow Dance is Rainbow Rowell at her best. And if you're looking for a really good like second chance romance that's done right. So I'm actually just so upset that I didn't feel the same way about Cherry Baby. And it just felt a little bit too long. Like I don't think there was any reason this book needed to be over 400 pages. So anyway, that is absolutely devastating that I didn't love the new Rainbow Rowell, but also to be starting off my 2026 reading with only a 3-star. I mean, you know, it could have been worse, but I think I'm mostly disappointed because of the feeling that I had at the start of this book. Like I really thought it was going to be a 5-star. I think for tomorrow, I would like to get out of the house tomorrow because I've kind of been like cooped up here at the house for a few days now. I mean, it has been pretty cold outside. Like we actually thought it was going to snow today, but it didn't snow, but it was only like 30 degrees. Like it got really cold today, and tomorrow's only supposed to be pretty cloudy, but I think we're supposed to get back up into the 40s tomorrow. So like hopefully maybe tomorrow I can start another book. Maybe I can go out to a coffee shop. how's it going? It is now the next afternoon. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I actually just left the coffee shop. I was reading in a coffee shop for like the last 2.5 hours, and it was so nice in that coffee shop. Like, it wasn't that crowded when I got there, but it definitely got a little bit more crowded as it got later into the afternoon. But anyway, I do have some reading updates because I started reading Adrift by Will Dean, but I only got up to chapter 4 of this book. I got about 27 pages in before I decided I don't really think I'm in the mood for this one. Not at the moment. I don't know. I feel like this is one of those thrillers where like the main thrilling thing that's happening is like this man that's like gaslighting and like emotionally abusive to his wife, and like I just really wasn't really in the mood to read something like this today. I mean, maybe I should have realized that about this because like in the description it literally says, when Drew's suspicious behavior and gaslighting becomes impossible to ignore, a series of catastrophic events is set off. And so maybe this is one that I will come back to, but I think for now I'm just gonna set it aside, and instead I decided to start reading Pinky Swear. This one's another thriller, and this one's going on sale in February next year, and I thought it sounded really interesting. I got 106 pages into this one while I was sitting in there, and this one is kind of on the shorter side. It's only about like 270 pages, but this one I thought had kind of an interesting setup because we're following this character named Lexi, and Lexi has this best friend named Mara, and they were really close friends all throughout like middle school and high school, and then it says they drifted apart after a tragedy derailed their senior year. But then this story starts when Mara shows up on her doorstep like 16 years later saying that she's fleeing an abusive husband and that she needs a place to stay, and so Lexi, offers her a place to stay, and Mara also finds out about how Lexi, like really wants to have children of her own, but she's not able to, and so then Mara offers to be the surrogate for her baby. And so right at the start of this book, you're reading about the weeks that are leading up to her due date, and then 4 days before the baby is due, Mara goes missing. And so this story is being told in like 2 separate timelines because we are getting the present day chapters as Lexi is like trying to figure out where the fuck Mara went and like what happened to her and if she was taken or if she left on her own. And then we do get some flashback chapters that are taking place in 2008 when the girls were, back in middle school. And we actually learned that there was like a trio of girls. It was Lexi, Mara, and then this other girl, Kate. And all 3 of them were best friends in middle school, so you're kind of reading about like their time in school together. And those parts of the book like low-key remind me of like Mean Girls a little bit because they have this like almost like what would be like a burn book. They have this notebook that they share where they like write all of the like dark things that they think and like dark things going on in their life. I don't really know how I'm feeling about this one, to be honest, because I think the writing in this book is like just okay so far. I mean, it's gripping me enough that like I want to know where the story's going, but I also do have a few different theories for like what I think is going on, and I'm really hoping that I'm wrong, but I'm starting to fear this might be one that ends up being pretty predictable. I don't know. I mean, obviously I don't know where the story's going, but I just feel like based off these first 100 pages, this kind of feels like a lot of thrillers that I've read in the past. And I feel like because it involves, like a pregnancy and like a pregnant woman going missing, I do feel like there's a bit of like urgency with like this mystery. I just don't know how I feel about this book because I have had the feeling like maybe I should just DNF it because I don't think I'm obsessed with the writing in this that much, but I also do feel invested enough to like finish the book. I just fear that if I do finish the book, I might rate it pretty low, but I think because the book is so short anyway, and because I'm already 100 pages in, I was like, I might as well finish it. I don't know, maybe I should have taken it as a warning that Geneva Rose is the one who did the blurb on the top. She said, visceral, tense, and shocking. Pinky Swear is an absolute must-read. I have not had the best experiences with Geneva Rose and her books. But anyway, I think I am going to try and finish this one up tonight. I do think I'm gonna go head back to the house, but I wanted to stop by Trader Joe's because we just need a few groceries. And then when I get back home, I need to finish editing this video that I filmed the other day. And then hopefully later tonight, I can finish reading the rest of this book, and I'm hoping that I give this more than 2 stars. Okay, hi, hello. Wanted to check in with an update because I just finished reading Pinky Swear. It's much later right now. It's about 11 o'clock at night. And earlier tonight, right when I got home from going out to the grocery store, I just got hit with like the worst cramps. So I was like laying in bed for most of the afternoon, and then my parents brought me home this chicken Caesar salad that was so good for dinner. And then my mom and I, we did end up finishing season 1 of Supernatural. We watched the last 4 episodes of season 1 tonight, and it was so good. The way that season 1 ended, I was like, bitch, what? It was kind of crazy, and I just really liked the last 2 episodes a lot. Like, they were both 10 out of 10s for me, so I can't wait to see where season 2 is gonna go. But unfortunately, I can't say the same about this book. You know, I wasn't expecting a lot with this, because even earlier today I was saying like, oh god, this is kind of feeling like it's gonna be like a 2-star read for me, and that feeling was definitely correct. And you know, maybe looking back, like maybe I should have just DNF'd this, because I really wasn't enjoying it. And I feel like in the second half of this book, it only got worse, because not only did I like not really care about the characters in this book, but I actually thought it was kind of annoying to be going back and forth between, you know, the present day and then the flashbacks when they were teenage girls. I just didn't feel invested enough in Lexi as a character to really like care about her situation. But I also thought she was a little bit annoying at times, because she kept calling the baby Goose. Anytime they talked about the baby at all, she would be like, make sure Goose is safe, or like, oh my god, I hope Goose is okay. And like, it was funny at first, but then it just got to be really annoying, and it was kind of cheesy when she would use it in like a very serious moment. I also just think this is the kind of thriller where you really have to like suspend your disbelief about certain things. I mean, for example, like there's a scene where she like calls a doctor's office and she's pretending to be her friend, you know, to try to get more information. And the way that this doctor's office is just handing out this like confidential information, I was like, there is no way. So there were just a few like cheesy moments like that that felt completely unrealistic to me. I also think in a thriller like this, where you have like a person that's gone missing, I do think sometimes stories like this can get really repetitive, with like the main character just running around like a chicken with her head cut off, just like trying to find this girl and talking to like all these different people, trying to follow her tracks, trying to figure out where she was last seen. It almost kind of felt boring to me, the way that like detective fiction feels boring to me. I don't know, it all just felt so repetitive to me, and I was so bored. And then I also thought the ending of this book was just very underwhelming. I actually think this author was trying to have a little bit of like an emotional moment at the end, but because I didn't really care about these characters, it just kind of fell flat for me. So yeah, sadly, I do think this one was a 2-star read. You know, 2026 is not starting off with the bangers that I thought I'd be starting it off with. So now I think this one has got to be the next book that I read for this video. You Did Nothing Wrong, and I feel like this one can't do me wrong, right? Is it unfair to this book to put this high of expectations on it? I don't know, but I feel like I really need a win in this vlog, so I'm gonna read this one tomorrow, and I'm just gonna cross my fingers and hope that I love it. Like, I really hope this one doesn't let me down. Okay, hi, it is much later in the afternoon now. It's like 4:30 in the afternoon, and I've been dreading this update all day because I've been trying to read You Did Nothing Wrong by C.G. Drews. I've been trying to read this book for like the last 5 hours. I've just been sitting in bed reading this book all day, and I can't seem to focus on it. Like, I'm literally only 80 pages into this, and I've been dreading this update because I'm not really liking this book. Oh my god, what is wrong with me? You know, I think this is my fault really for like overhyping this book in my head, you know, because this is the same author as Don't Let the Forest In, which was my #1 favorite book of last year. But then if you do recall, I also read Hazelthorn by C.G. Drews in October or November of last year, and I gave that book 2 stars, so I didn't really like that one, but I was still really holding out hope for this one because I knew that this was going to be an adult book, and I thought it would be more up my alley because it's an adult horror. But I'm starting to fear like this author might be a one-hit wonder for me with this book, because I'm not loving You Did Nothing Wrong. I mean, I'm only 80 pages in, and I've been sitting there trying to read this for the last 5 hours. Like, I feel like that's a really bad sign. Like, I cannot focus on this book for the life of me. It's like I'll read a few pages and then I'll get distracted by my phone for like 30 minutes. You know, the main reason why I was excited for this one is because it says that it's a domestic suspense meets haunted house horror. And in this story, we're actually following this single mother, this woman named Elodie, and it says that her life has become a fairy tale because she recently moved from Australia to Virginia in the US, and she met this man named Bren, who she thinks is like the most perfect man she's ever met. They recently got married, and she has this autistic son named Jude, and she has Jude from a previous relationship because Jude is like 6 years old. And at the start of this book, we learn that she's pregnant with Bren's child. And so they're moving into this home in Virginia that he's going to be renovating, and he's going to be trying to make it really nice. I do really tend to enjoy, you know, like haunted house horror. Like, that's one of my favorite subgenres of horror. So I was really looking forward to this, and I know that I'm only 80 pages in, but I really feel like this is reading a lot more like a domestic suspense as opposed to a haunted house horror. And I am just really not invested in like the domestic suspense aspect of this book. I feel like the overall tone of this book has just been so sad and so bleak and so depressing, and just like really putting me in the mood where like I really don't want to read this right now. I actually just feel really bad for this character Elodie, because I feel like for so much of this book, it's like she's trying to convince herself that this guy Bren is like the perfect man, and she keeps using that word perfect to describe him and to describe her life. But then it's also really about like her hardships, you know, like as a mother, especially to this autistic child. And there's a lot of scenes where like he's misbehaving or she's like trying to get him under control, and she keeps talking about how much pressure there is on her to be a good mother and questioning if she even is a good mother. There's a lot of really stressful scenes like that where she's dealing with these really hard parenting situations. But then also with her husband, you know, this guy Bren, like their relationship is still so new that it's almost like she's constantly questioning, like, do I really know this man? And like, is he really capable of being a father to her autistic son? It's almost like she doesn't know if she can like leave him alone with her because she doesn't know what he's gonna do. Like she's constantly thinking like, would he ever hit him? And I don't know, I just feel like this book has been so difficult to read today because the overall tone of this is so sad, and it's just really like not what I was in the mood for. I don't really know what I was expecting with this book, to be honest, but it's just not really what I'm wanting to read right now. I mean, don't get me wrong, like the writing in this book is definitely really gorgeous. It's like the typical writing that you would come to expect from this author, where like almost every single line in the book is like some kind of beautiful metaphor. Like when it says he was her baby hurricane in a jar and she had never been able to twist on the lid, or like a moment where she just like turns on the lights and it says the shadows curl their tongues back into their mouths and the world turns crisp and overexposed. Like the writing is really beautiful. Like one of my favorite quotes at the end of chapter 1 is when it says he is afraid of the dark, she is afraid that he doesn't love her. There was some powerful stuff in this book, so I really can't tell if this is like a me thing or if it's the book, but I am just really not in the headspace to be reading this book right now. Maybe this will be something that I'll come back to once I have access to the audiobook, because I do find that sometimes with the audiobook, it helps me push through some of the slower scenes that I'm kind of like struggling with just reading this book physically. But gosh, I hate to DNF one of my most anticipated books of the year. Like maybe I should just lower my expectations going into some of these books, because what is going on? I never even had the chance to update you about this, but I also was trying to read Hold Me Like a Grudge. This was like a few days ago before I even started this reading vlog, because this was actually the book that I was hoping to maybe start with, but I got 61 pages into this and I was also just like really not feeling this book, which is crazy because if you had asked me like a week ago, this was probably one of my most anticipated books of 2026, because I've been in such a queer sports romance mood, especially after loving Heated Rivalry. I mean, Heated Rivalry and then Challengers like completely changed my life, and I'm just really obsessed with anything queer sports romance lately. Like it's something that I'm seeking out, and this is one that I was so freaking excited for, but like after 60 pages, like I just cannot get invested in this story. I think it's just the writing style itself. Like I'm just not really connecting to these characters, and I don't know why when I saw this book cover, I guess I had assumed that it was going to be about two guys who were like boxing, but then when I started reading it, I realized that it's actually about these two guys who are professional wrestlers. I didn't really understand the difference between boxing and wrestling before I started this book, but I'm starting to realize that like I don't know if I care at all about wrestling. I mean, as they describe in this book, he says the thing about professional wrestling is this: it's basically glorified theater, and they're basically saying it's like it's all some kind of skit that they're just like putting on for the crowd. Like none of it is really real. They're just like acting like they're in pain or like they're fighting each other, but they're actually not. I don't know, I was losing interest in this so fast because I was like, I don't really care about the wrestling, and like not that anything romantic has really happened between them yet at this point, but like I am just not really feeling the romance between these two either. So like I don't know what is going on. Maybe it is me, maybe something's wrong with me, because I am not liking a lot of these 2026 releases that I've been so excited for months. So I think I just need to take some time to figure out like what I want to read next and like where do I go from here. Also, look at how cute what I just got in the mail. This hat from Book of the Month. It says unreliable narrator on a black hat. Oh my god, this is my new favorite thing ever. You will catch me wearing this hat every day for the rest of my life. Okay, hello, I'm checking in. It's the next morning, and I'm glad to let you know that I do have a really exciting reading update, because last night I decided to start reading Good Intentions, and this is one that I actually do have as an early audiobook that the publisher sent to me, and this book is going to be coming out in February of 2026. And this book has been described as a mystery thriller, and I would describe it as being a little bit more on the literary side of things, but I am really liking the writing in this so far, and I'm 55% of the way through. I really wanted to make sure that I was like getting into this book and enjoying it before I updated you, and so I'm glad to let you know that it's going very well so far. In this story, we're following this woman named Katie, and right at the start of this book, her twin sister Dana dies, and it's very sudden and very unexpected. And when she's in the hospital, she meets this other woman named Morgan, and Morgan is dealing with the death of her 12-year-old son on the same day that her sister died. And so this story is kind of about how this girl Katie is starting to become obsessed with this other woman Morgan, who also dealt dealt with this very significant loss on the same day that she did. And it's almost like one of those stories where she just starts to like stalk her online. She starts to like try to get to her in person. She starts to go to the same like grief support group that she's going to, but it definitely feels a little bit more like literary style of writing because we're getting a lot of flashbacks to like Katie's childhood with her sister Dana and like how they were always so close and like so tight at the hip. And I think I'm really connecting with this story a lot because I really do love the sister relationship that's being explored between her and Dana. I mean, me and my sister, you know, like we're not twins, but we've always heard from people that we either look like twins or that we act like twins because we are very close in age. Like me and my sister are only 2 years apart and we've just always been like so incredibly close. And so I definitely relate to a lot of the way that she's talking about her sister and the way that they always thought that they would do all of these things in their life together. Like they always thought that they'd be getting married around the same time or having kids at the same time. Like they always talked about those things growing up. But I think this book is really interesting actually because Katie is a little bit unhinged. Like she's not doing so well. And so naturally reading from her perspective is just very, very interesting. I really do just like reading about sister relationships in general. And I feel like this one is also really interesting because we do get to hear a little bit from like Dana's, you know, husband's perspective and how he's saying like he thought that their relationship was like really toxic and that Dana always felt like she was suffocating and that she could like never do anything without her sister's approval. And so there's definitely like some complicated relationship dynamics being explored in this book that I am really liking. And just in general, like, I don't know, I'm really liking the story so far because I'm only listening to this one on audio. I was like, man, am I really going to be able to like follow along okay? But I've been so locked in, like so focused in on this audiobook. I'm just so curious to see because I'm only halfway through. I'm like, where's the rest of this going? How unhinged are we going to get? Because I really hope the ending of this book just goes like crazy bonkers wild. I mean, at this point, I feel like I could give this up to like 4 stars. Like I'm having a good time with it. Anyway, I just stopped by my local Mochi Nut because I wanted to pick up a few donuts for tonight. Because tonight, me and my sister and Obed, we're all going to be watching the Stranger Things series finale tonight, and I cannot wait. So yeah, I'm just going to continue listening to this one on audio and hoping for the best.
I used to jump without looking. Didn't care if I fell too hard.
Hello, how's it going? I have some updates. I'm wearing red right now because I just finished filming the announcement for my next round of Screaming Color, which is going to be red and pink, and I'm going to be hosting that in February, and I'm so freaking excited. I feel like there's actually a lot of books that have both red and pink on the cover, and so that's going to be happening on my Patreon next month if you want to join us. I think it's going to be great. And then also, last night, I ended up watching the finale of Stranger Things with Rachel and Obed, and I'd love to know, how do you feel about this series finale? Because I think I have mixed feelings. I mean, overall, I really did like it. I think I'm giving it like a 7 out of 10, but I also think I expected like a little bit more from that finale. I feel like some things were just a little bit too easy and like a little bit too simple, but I do love like the nostalgic feeling that it gave me, and I really loved the very end. Like it almost made me emotional, but I didn't quite get there. I don't know, I feel like there was something missing for me from this finale, but I would love to know what you think about it. And then also, late last night, I did finish reading Good Intentions, and I'm so happy to let you know that I actually really liked this one, and I think I'm giving it 4 stars. It feels so good to finally enjoy a book for this video. You have no idea. I really liked the writing style in this book quite a bit because I loved how this book felt like it was written to her sister, because, you know, we are following from Katie's perspective for the entire book, but I like the way that the book was written because it's almost like she was talking to her sister Dana, or like catching her up on things that have happened since she died. I also did really enjoy that this book felt like such a slow burn, you know, like mystery type of literary book about this character just like unraveling. You know, I feel like this book is really about this character just like unraveling and spiraling with her grief. And like some of the things that this character would like do or say, or even like things that she would think, I would be like, bestie, are we all right? Like sometimes I was like, wow, she's really going there. Like, wow, that's kind of crazy. It's also one of those books that makes you think, because I'm like, does this character, like, does she genuinely believe that she has like good intentions, you know? Because obviously like this book is called Good Intentions, and it's like you're constantly wondering, like, do you actually feel like you're doing a good thing, or are you just like very manipulative in that way? Like it was actually kind of hard to tell with this character if she was like genuine with feeling like she had good intentions about things. But I feel like that's what made her so fascinating of a character to me, and like that's why I enjoyed this book so much, was because I found her narration to be so fascinating. I mean, I do think this was a little bit like on the long side, because I think this audiobook is like 14 hours long. I think this book is well over like 400 pages pages, but I actually didn't notice the length of it that much because I was listening to it on audio. I think it was easy to like just get lost in the story. I just overall really loved the writing in this book, and I loved the exploration of like complicated sibling relationships, and then also like the exploration of grief and like how grief can really change you as a person. And also the ending had me gooped and gagged. I was like, what do you mean? Hold up. I had to like reread the final few sentences to make sure that I was processing and like understanding what I just read, because I was like, whoa. So the ending was cool. I really liked the ending, and I feel like this was a very solid thriller. I mean, I would definitely recommend this to people who enjoy thrillers that feel more like character studies, and like this is definitely the kind of thriller that feels very slow burn. It feels very literary, and you're definitely spending most of your time like in this character's head, like you were deep in her thoughts for most of this book. But there was just something about the writing that really worked for me, and this audiobook was just so compelling and like so easy to listen to. I think for the rest of the day I'm actually going to be editing some videos because I just filmed 2 videos this morning. I need to get at least one of them edited by tonight. I might just make one of my pork rice bowls for dinner, you know, like the pork bowls that I'm obsessed with and I'm still obsessed with. I might do something simple like that for dinner tonight, and then maybe watch more Supernatural with my mom. I don't know, it's really cold outside. It's probably going to be a very cozy night in, and I don't know what I'm going to read next, but I will update you once I figure that out.
Now I keep my hands in my pockets. Overthink every scar. I've traded daisy chains for loose ends and no connection. I've traded summer breaks for long nights and lost direction. I know I've made mistakes, but never learned my lesson. Where did she go? I swear she was just here, running the show, so unafraid. Wish I could go back to those days. Where did she go? Is she hiding in me?
Okay, hi, hello. I wanted to update you because I have some reading updates. I decided to come down to my local park today to do some reading because it's not too cold outside. I mean, it's about like 43 degrees outside, which is, you know, pretty freezing. But it was like nice enough that I could sit out there for like about an hour and do some reading over like by the water. But then I did get a little bit too cold and I had to come back to my car. But anyway, I wanted to update you because I started reading This Story Might Save Your Life by Tiffany Crum, and this one is an arc that's going on sale in March. I actually just got this book in the mail a few days ago, and I wasn't really planning to read this book in this vlog, but because I've just been so clueless on like what I want to read, and because the books haven't been going so well, I decided to give this one a shot, and this one's actually a new debut author. I was actually just so curious to read this because the publisher sent this little flyer. It literally says, if thriller author Lisa Jewell and romance author Emily Henry co-wrote a book, this is what we would get. And my initial reaction to that was like, bitch, please, like, yeah, right. But honestly, okay, I'm 102 pages into this book and I'm loving this so much. This is so up my alley. Like, this is definitely my kind of a book. It's reminding me why I love reading. Like, I felt so immediately gripped into this story and I'm obsessed and I can't put it down. And I love that this feels equal parts like thriller and romance. I didn't know that this was something that I needed in my life until right now. And this is why I love reading random books so much. Like, I just took a chance on this, mostly because I also love this cover. Like, is this not one of the most beautiful covers you've ever seen? Like, I'm obsessed with it. And so what I'm loving the most about this book is that it does feel equal parts thriller and romance. We're following these two characters named Benny and Joy. And in the present day, both Benny and Joy, they're both best friends. They're living in Los Angeles and they have this podcast together that's called This Story Might Save Your Life. And it's basically like a comedy survival podcast. And like every episode they have a different theme, which I actually love the idea for this podcast. I think it's so fun and so unique. And I also just love any kind of books that follow podcasts like this because I love seeing all the behind the scenes of like what goes into making a podcast like this and like all the deals they're making behind the scenes with brands. And their podcast is like majorly successful. Like, they are one of the biggest podcasts. They have millions of downloads and like they're in negotiations with brands to make $1 million deals. This story feels like a thriller because one day when Benny goes over to Joy's house to record their next podcast episode, he finds out that she's missing and her husband is missing. And her husband is also like one of the people who works on their podcast. So he starts to freak out and wonder like where she went. But then in alternate chapters, we do get Joy's perspective in the past, and we follow her point of view, and we kind of get to see how her and Benny became best friends in the first place. And like, oh my God, it's definitely one of those stories where like her and Benny, they were never like an item, but they definitely had a lot of tension between them. And it almost feels like one of those stories where it was like, it was never the right time for them, but there were definitely feelings there. And I'm just loving the way that the like romantic tension was like written between them. It has that feel to it where it's almost like a messy love triangle kind of a situation, and I am living for it. I'm really loving like Joy's flashback chapters because they definitely do kind of feel like Emily Henry to me. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but the writing, I just love it so much. I was only like 30 pages into this book and I was already feeling so many things, and I felt so connected to both of them as characters. I also love the way that this is taking place in like the Inland Empire and like Los Angeles. I mean, if you weren't aware, I'm actually from California, like born and raised. I lived in California for the first 20 years of my life, and I moved to Washington about 10 years ago. But I am loving the setting in this book so much. Like, it genuinely does feel like it's taking place in Southern California. I loved and related to this so much when she was talking about things I didn't know about Los Angeles when I first moved here, and she starts talking about how it's often really windy, traffic is as bad as everyone says, you can make over $300,000 a year and still not be able to afford a home. If you don't live near the beach, summers can be brutally hot. She says Angelinos can't drive in the rain to save their lives. Fire season is terrifying. Celebrity sightings are common. LAX is a disaster. Just the way that she talks about like Los Angeles and Southern California, I was like, yeah, this author definitely knows what she's talking about. I also thought it was really interesting and unique because right at the start of this book, you learn that Joy's character, she actually suffers from narcolepsy, which is a disability that I actually didn't really know much about it. I don't think I've ever heard of this condition called narcolepsy, but it's basically when she just has this issue where she's like always falling asleep. Like in the middle of the day, she'll take multiple naps per day. And it's kind of this disability where she like really struggles to stay awake, like so much to the point where like it's almost like dangerous for her to get a driver's license because she could have an incident where she like falls asleep while she's driving. It's a really unique disability, and I don't think I've ever read a book that has a character that has this specific disability. So that's been really like insightful and educational for me to read about in this book. God, I am loving the writing in this so much. I feel so engaged in like the mystery and like trying to find out what could have happened to Joy. I mean, I do have a few different theories right now, and so I'm definitely curious to see like how that pans out, but I'm also just really loving the characters. Like, I feel so connected to both Joy and Benny as characters. This one is nearly 360 pages, and I already found myself thinking like, damn, I wish it was even longer because I'm having so much fun with it and I like never want it to end. And so like, I don't want to jinx it, but I do feel like we could have a 5-star read on our hands. Like, this could be my first 5-star book of 2026. So anyway, I am going to head back to the house. I think I need to make a quick stop at the library and pick up one of my library holds that just came in. And I do have some Patreon reading sprints scheduled later this afternoon, which couldn't be more perfect because I really do want to spend the rest of the night reading this book.
Mistakes that everyone is making, but I can't change. I'm stuck in reverse like an old Benz. Forgot to tap it up. Now I long for another day where things fall into place.
Okay, hello, I wanted to update you because it's now after 8 o'clock at night, and I also decided to DoorDash these quesadilla tacos. Like, oh my God, they were so good. I'm recently discovering that about myself, that I love birria in tacos. I was always worried that it was gonna be a little bit too spicy for me, but that was perfect. And anyway, I'm also excited to let you know that I just finished reading This Story Might Save Your Life. I loved this book so much. I mean, God, the way that I was able to fly through this 350-page book in one afternoon, I could not put this book down for the life of me. Like, there was something so addicting to me about this writing in this book. It was definitely one of those stories where like almost at the end of every single chapter, it leaves you with something that just makes you want to continue reading and get to the next chapter. I ended up going back in and annotating all of my thoughts from the first half of the book because, of course, you know, today when I went to the park, I didn't bring any of my tabs with me, which sucks because I usually do whenever I go out, but of course today was the one time I didn't. And so when I got back to the house, I ended up putting in a bunch of different tabs. I mean, the main tab that I was using is for any time that we learned some like shocking information. Like, that was definitely my most used tab because I feel like this author does a really good job at like revealing things to you very slowly. The mystery just unravels in a really interesting way in this book. And then I also had a tab for any moments that I thought were like really sweet and like really endearing moments between these characters. And I do have a lot of tabs for that as well. I thought it was especially intense at the very end of part 1, like going into part 2 of this book. I was like, holy shit, it was getting so twisty. So my one complaint that I do have with this book is that I do think it was a little bit bit predictable. I mean, I was definitely able to predict like one of the big kind of like twists that was happening in this book. And I also do think the last like 100 pages or so, it did start to lose me just a little bit in terms of like enjoyment. Like I think I was enjoying the book a lot more in the first half than I was in the second half. And I guess my main complaint with this is that I don't know if the ending of the book was like the most satisfying thing ever after the journey that I went on with this. Like I do have a few little like nitpicky things about the end that I wasn't the biggest fan of. And then also for this book kind of being promoted as like a thriller and a romance book, I do think, at least in my opinion, like the romance was slacking for me a little bit in the second half. Like I just wanted the romance to be fleshed out even more. But otherwise, I really don't have too many complaints about this. Like I loved both of these characters, both Joy and Benny. I mean, I don't really like the name Benny for like an adult man. Like why doesn't he just go by Ben? I don't know why with the name Benny, it makes him sound like so much younger than he is. But I really did enjoy Benny as a character so much, and Joy as a character. I loved their podcast. And I feel like the podcast was written so well in this book. Like it almost made me want to go and like listen to this podcast. And I had to keep reminding myself like, this is not real. This is a fictional podcast. And so I loved this. I don't know if it was like the perfect 5-star book for me. I feel like because I had a few different critiques and like little nitpicky things, I don't know if I can give this the full 5 stars. It's probably going to be closer to like a 4.5 stars, but I do think I'm probably going to round up to 5 stars, especially because I feel like over time, when I reflect back on this book, I'm going to mostly remember the things that I loved about it. It just had a really great impact on me, and it was one of those books that I just absolutely devoured within one afternoon, and that's such a rare feeling. So I'm really glad to be ending this vlog on a positive note. I'm glad that I do have a book that's a 2026 release that I can highly recommend to you, and this one is going to be publishing on March 10th, so definitely keep your eyes peeled for this one. If you're looking for a thriller that feels a little bit more literary and like romance heavy, I also think this would be perfect for fans of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I don't know why, there was something about these characters that reminded me of the connection between those characters in that book. Like imagine they did a podcast together instead of the video game and you basically have this book. So yeah, anyways, that is a wrap on this reading vlog. I feel like this reading vlog started off pretty rough. Like it really sucks that I had to DNF so many of my most anticipated books of this entire year. I'm glad that I was at least able to find a new favorite before the end of this vlog, because that was my goal. Like that was my hope. So you'll have to let me know, are any of these books on your TBR? Have you read any of these? What did you think of them? And thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye.